listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. This is episode 141, where we talk about concealed carry classes, the difference between basic and enhanced concealed carry permits here in Idaho, and how to prepare for really any class. Before we get started, make sure you find us on social media everywhere at Range Minded Podcast. Thanks for listening, and as always, we hope you enjoy episode 141 of Range Minded, the ways to prepare for firearm classes. Hello and welcome to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. My name is Mark Long and I am joined as always by...
Oh man, it's Steve Zimmerman back again.
Yeah, but only Steve Zimmerman this time. Nick Hoffer is not with us this time, unfortunately.
Yeah, he had some things to take care of today, so he was unable to hang out with us.
Yeah, that happens.
It is what it is. He's a busy guy.
He is. He's a busy dude. He's running his own business. You know, I can't fault him. So, but we'll try to muddle on through without him.
Yeah, we'll try. It's been a while since we've done an episode without him.
But we do have, hopefully we'll keep you entertained for this one. We got an exciting topic because you have next weekend. You're doing something exciting.
Yeah. So if you look back at like my last 3 years of New Year's resolutions, do you remember what that one of the main one was? Training, get some education.
Yeah, well, continuing education.
Finally going to do something about that.
Good.
It only took 3 years.
Well, it's better than never.
Well, I guess I've done stuff, but I decided, and people are going to wonder why I have never done this before, but I decided to actually take a class from Independence instead of just talk about them or teach them.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between, I think you get a separate enjoyment from teaching a class than you do taking a class, you know what I mean? And both are just as fun. So, cause I've professionally, I've kind of taught some classes or had some workshops and stuff, and it's fun to be able to teach what you know. And I think RSOing, you don't train, but you do teach the safety aspect of things a little bit. And that's always kind of fun and has its own kind of fulfillment to it. So, I kind of get what you're saying. And, sometimes it's better to do that. And, but there's always room for training, and improvement.
There is tons of room for improvement for me because I'm thick-skulled to start with. So teaching and learning sometimes, I always learn something anyways when I teach, but like you're saying, I think it's going to be a little bit different when you're actually sitting at the table and sucking in the information. And plus, I really like to see how other instructors teach.
That's what I was going to say. I think you can actually get a kind of a primer or some tips on how to teach your classes. You can see how other people do it and learn from there. And I think that's definitely a big boon to somebody who does teach classes,
Yeah, I know I get kind of stuck in the way I teach, and that's probably not good. It's not a good thing. It's always good to see how other instructors interact and get segments or philosophies across to different people, because everybody's different that's taking the class anyways, and everybody's got their different skill levels.
Yeah,
and everybody learns differently. So it's good to see how other people are doing it.
Yeah, and you can take, like I said, you could probably steal some good ideas or take some tips from other instructors. And
yeah, I wouldn't say it's stealing, because we're all teaching in the same place. We're all we're all part of the same team.
Yeah.
So I just look at it as learning new things, I guess.
Yeah, and sharpening your skills. So,
yeah,
but
that would be a better way to put it, like honing some skills.
But what class are you taking? That's the big thing.
So people are gonna be flabbergasted to find out that I've never taken an enhanced concealed carry class. I can teach the principles of the class, but I have never personally sat down and actually gone through a class.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I didn't know that you didn't have. Do you have your enhanced permit or no?
No, I've never gotten around to it.
Sure.
I don't travel to the states that have the increased reciprocity, and so I just have never dealt with it. Now, mind you, the information that's being taught is really the most important thing is that legal aspect. And I have sat through the class before. I've heard lots of legal sides, and I could have gotten that permit a long time ago.
Sure.
But I decided to just actually take the class.
So why don't we start with kind of the differences between what you've noticed between an enhanced concealed carry class and maybe a basic concealed carry class, because as we remember in Idaho, you don't necessarily need to take a class to carry concealed. In the state of Idaho, we have constitutional carry here.
And that is correct. And so as an instructor or even a gun salesman, I hear that a lot. Like, well, I don't need to have a permit because we're a constitutional carry. So what does it matter? Well, it matters a lot.
It does.
First of all, as a purchaser, somebody buying the gun, it saves you a lot of time at the gun counter. And that's kind of the first thing that comes to my mind, because maybe I've bought a lot of guns in my life, and that would have been a lot of wasted time.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that surprised me. I actually got my concealed carry permit and didn't even know that you can basically skip the waiting period. That until I bought a new firearm, I was like, oh, well, you have your concealed carry permit, so you can take this home right now. Oh, yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah. And that might be some kind of confusing if we have some new listeners that have never heard that or experienced that in their life. So it's not that you don't need to go through a background check. It's that the background check has already taken place.
Right.
And so you show that card saying, yeah, I passed that test. We're good. I just need to fill out this paperwork. And then you might think, well, what about if a felon takes that class? Well, a felon won't be issued that permit because they're incapable of passing that background check.
Yeah, you have to actually successfully pass a background check in order to get that concealed carry permit. So that's kind of the whole reasoning behind it.
And we don't do that background check at the store. That has to be done at the sheriff's office. So they have access to all, if you have bad history, that they have access to that information. Yeah.
And that's just for your basic and CCW permit. An enhanced actually gives you a little bit more places to statewise to carry, because there's a thing called reciprocity. And I guess we'll kind of go through that real quick, is that, just like a driver's license, some states will recognize other states' concealed carry permits and vice versa. So, for example, I believe, we can carry in Montana and a couple other places. Well, actually quite a lot of other places. But an enhanced concealed carry permit actually lets you carry in more places.
Yeah. So for us on this side of the country, most likely we're going to travel to places like Nevada or Utah or Montana, Wyoming, California, Oregon, and Washington, right? Most people aren't really going to go past those boundaries.
Right.
And so as far as the enhanced, then we gain Nevada. And I think Washington, I think that's the difference between the two, but we don't gain California or Oregon. Those states have their own issued permits.
Right.
And so that's one thing you need to understand. If you have a permit, whether it's the enhanced or the basic permit, it doesn't mean you can just go wherever you want. And I think we've talked about this a while ago, actually. It's really up to you to figure out where it's valid to carry with a permit.
Yeah, it's very, you have to, it can be convoluted, but it's very much your responsibility is what I was going to say. Ignorance of the law is not going to get you an excuse there, but, with an enhanced concealed carry class, you really can, concealed carry in all but I think a dozen or so states, with an Idaho permit, which is pretty cool. With an enhanced, at least with an enhanced, I think you gain like, another dozen or two or something.
I can't remember the total. I used to know that off the top of my head.
I will say that USCCA does have a great reciprocity map if you want to look into that.
And I think it's an interactive map too. You can click on it and it tells you, a lot of the laws. So
yep, exactly. So Yeah, that's definitely something you want to look into, and that was one of the benefits to getting your concealed carry permit, even just a basic permit from Idaho, is that you can carry in other states. So if you travel interstate for work or maybe just for fun, you can still concealed carry in those with that. With constitutional carry, you're really only limited to those constitutional carry states, and then one of the other reasons to get an enhanced concealed carry permit is that you can travel to even more states with that enhanced class.
Right.
So, and then can you talk about the difference between getting a basic, obtaining a basic permit and an enhanced permit?
Well, as far as the education or the class duration, or what exactly you're asking? Just
kind of overall, obviously there's a little bit more that goes into an enhanced concealed carry class.
Yeah, there is.
And I am trying to remember exactly what. Do you need to take a class for a basic concealed carry permit in Idaho?
So when I got mine, believe it or not, I just put down self-trained, and they really didn't like that answer, but they gave it to me anyways.
Interesting.
I really was. I mean, I took some NRA stuff, and I mean, I just took it myself.
Right.
And like I said, they didn't really like that, but I did end up getting my permit. But with the enhanced permit, you have to take it from a place that, and I think even now with the basic, you have to take it somewhere that has an established curriculum that is okayed by the sheriff's office in that county. And some people may not even understand that the curriculum that you're taking, that guy or gal that's teaching you has to have that okayed curriculum that's established. You can't just have some willy-nilly stuff that's thrown together.
Yeah, it actually has to be okayed. Yeah, like you said.
Yeah, which I say, I don't think a lot of people understand that, which is good because then it validates the instructors inside the state.
Yeah, and the reason I asked too is because I actually, when I moved here from Illinois, I actually already had my training in Illinois, and that counted. So, if you do get training in another state, at least for the basic.
For the basic, correct.
So, but yeah, it enhances a whole nother ballgame, and you really do have to have something that is, like you said, okayed by the sheriff of that county, and it's usually either a certified trainer or a law enforcement officer that's doing the training in that regard. So,
yeah, almost always. So, at the store, we use the USCCA curriculum, which is obviously established across the country.
Right.
So it's easy for the sheriff's offices to okay that. And then, so man, I'm kind of getting all over the place. The basic class is usually a 4-hour class, almost anywhere you go.
Right.
The enhanced class has to be 8 hours by Idaho state law.
Right.
And there has to be a portion of that has to be taught by either an attorney that understands defensive laws and stuff within the state, and I can't remember, man, I'm going to sound like an idiot. A post, I think it's a level 2 certified post instructor that understands the legalities of using a defensive weapon.
Yeah, there's certain restrictions that have to be, you have to have certain qualifications at least, rather to teach that part of a class. And I think that's where the law enforcement comes in. And the first person that comes to mind is either like Jim Love, for example, or Bill that, taught at the shop.
Even Leroy.
You have to have those certifications in order to teach those classes, or at least have those because there is that legality part that really ties into the enhanced class, I think, a little bit more than a basic class.
Yeah, and that's why I really like the enhanced class. Not because of the shooting range time or whatever, because that's pretty standardized. Like there's nothing really exciting that happens there. but the legal aspect of carrying and using a defensive tool is really the information that could keep you out of jail, there's some important things that you need to understand, and that's why there's such a large time frame dedicated in that class to the legal side.
Yeah, and I will say that usually it is a full 8 hours. Some classes, I'm not going to name any names, but they're supposed to be 8 hours, and maybe there's not enough curriculum to fill that 8 hours. But with an enhanced class, you could fill that easily. Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of the attorney that does our stuff, but he is very, very open to questions, and he understands the legalese side of it. So people, I've sat in after I've run the range portion of that class and gone in there and listened to the attorney answer questions. And there are tons of off the wall questions that come out, and he answers them like he understands the law.
Yeah.
And that really is a critical part of carrying a firearm.
Yeah, because everybody's situation is different. Everybody's daily lives are different, and you have to be able to figure out what is going to pertain to your situation. So definitely worth asking questions, and we'll get into a little bit more, but before you actually even get to the class, maybe have a list of questions that pertain to your personal situation. The other thing
that's very dynamic. That's a very dynamic thing.
The other thing I was going to say about getting an enhanced concealed carry class, one of the requirements is, I believe it's 99 rounds that you have to shoot.
I think the state says 99. We end up shooting about 150 in the enhanced class.
Yeah.
And that sucks right now. It's so hard to get the ammo. But I'm pretty sure that the store set aside ammo just in case for some of the students. You're not getting it for free. It's not a perk of the class, but, and that's going to be like a sideline. That's going to be a hindrance to training all over the country for the next little while, I think is the ammunition.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest hurdles right now for people to take any kind of classes, because you're dealing with that ammo shortage and the expense. But it's like you said, some people, you need range time, whether that's to decompress or to keep your skills sharp or to get better and learn new things. And maybe, depending on, what you think of the world right now, that can, being able to carry a concealed weapon is important to you. So.
Yeah. And another thing that people may not understand is whenever we think of concealed carry permit, we're almost always thinking about a firearm, but we're never considering a defensive knife or pepper spray or any of that. All that stuff has legal repercussions and a boundary between defense and attack.
Right.
We could easily be construed as the attacker in a situation if we don't understand what we're doing.
Yeah, having that training, even just having the documentation of being trained can go
that'll help you a lot.
Super long way if you ever get into a legal quandary, we'll call it that, where you have those kinds of issues. So, because like we could talk about with Adam, it may not be that you draw a firearm or whatever, but if you have to draw a knife or get into something with an issue with a knife or what have you, you want to be able to have documentation that you have that training.
Yeah.
So definitely something that you want to keep in mind. But yeah, the round count, I think too, is obviously just because you need to show proficiency. But I think the interesting thing that we've talked about this before, is that you don't have really an accuracy or a requirement past the 99 rounds. You can go into the desert and shoot 99 rounds into the ground if you wanted to, and you can qualify for that. But obviously at the store, we do it a little bit differently. We do a lot more involved of a course of fire and really make those rounds count, especially nowadays. So,
and that's one thing that I've always been disappointed about, is there should be a little bit more. And like I say, we do something a little different than the minimum required. You don't ever want to take a class that just meets the minimum requirements.
Right.
So yeah, we do a little bit of proficiency and kind of amped up shooting in there. And I don't want to say we're not shooting in the dark with a flashlight or anything like that.
Right.
But there's a cadence increase and we start at real basic, so everybody starts on the same page and moves up to a little 2 or 3 shot strings, and so it's a good starting position.
Yeah, and it's definitely because some people might be taking the enhanced class and they don't have as much firearm experience as other people. So we start out at a lower kind of bar maybe than what you're used to, and work up from there. But you really do learn a lot of, I would say, valuable skills. So definitely,
I hope so.
definitely important. So. Yeah, because you're taking it. You don't, and you're going to be experiencing it firsthand.
Yeah, like I say, I've ran the shooting portion. I've sat in some of the other stuff, so I know what to expect. I'm not nervous or anything, obviously, but
right.
It'll be fun,
but it's different as a student. So, but that's kind of the basics between the basic and the enhanced. And, I think that provides a pretty good argument of why you should take an enhanced, all the way up to an enhanced class if you can. What to expect. But, I wanted to talk about too, kind of how you prepare for classes just in general, because I think no matter what the class is, there has to be a little bit of prep work to make sure that you're getting the most out of, the class that you're going to be taking.
Yeah. And my experience is probably going to be different than somebody that's new to the firearms world.
Sure.
So I'm sure, because I've seen some of the more nervous students out there that they worry a lot from when they sign up to the class to where they're actually sitting in the classroom or going into the range. They tend to over worry or overthink what's going to happen. So I think the very first thing to do, if you have signed up to one of any class, whether it's our class or somebody else's class, is maybe if they have some videos or some reviews or whatever, try and calm your mind by watching that stuff, or even jumping on YouTube and watching some other similar class settings, so you can kind of get an idea of what's really going to happen inside the range. Yeah, like we said, our curriculum might differ from other instructors, but at least it'll give you an idea, because the nerves are what's well, they could be the most dangerous, or they can be the most appreciated. Because if we're nervous around a gun, then we're probably going to treat it with a little bit more safety than the more comfortable shooters, which is good.
Right. Yeah, it's better to be. It's good to be cautious during a class. It might be. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. It don't let your nerves prohibit you from actually, right, learning and exploring new, firearm handling skills. But at the same time, you obviously want to be safe, especially if you haven't taken too many classes before. There's really no room for overconfidence, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
No, and if you are overconfident, you're probably going to be humbled by a brand new shooter next to you.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
If they don't have any, if it's some gal that's new to the shooting world and she has no bad habits, she's probably going to perform a little better than maybe what you think, or maybe even better than you. Yeah,
100% true. So, I think that kind of starts with, the mindset going in, like you've talked about it a bunch of times, is going in with an empty kind of mind, and as a sponge, being able and willing to think about everything that you're being taught and being open to it. An open vessel is what you say. That's what it is.
I can't remember. That sounds a lot more wise than what normally comes out of my mouth. But.
Yeah, but you want to be receptive to everything. You want to go in there with no assumptions. And I would just say the right mindset overall is in that, you're willing to take everything, at face value and listen a little bit, and then and take notes too. And then afterwards kind of judge whether that's going to be relevant to your situation or not. You definitely want to be taking notes and writing things down, especially going back to that proof of education thing. I think if you take notes and show, you get into a situation and say, look, no, I actively paid attention in this class and I took notes and I, this, that, and the other. I think that's going to help you in the long run if need be.
Yeah. Can you hear my kids in the background giggling?
Oh yeah, a little bit.
They think you're funny, I guess.
I may be funny looking.
Yeah. So I think it really comes down to, and I know we've talked about this a ton of times, is the attitude, having a positive attitude when you go in there.
Yep.
And that obviously goes with everything in this world. If you have a good attitude going into anything, you're going to see the benefits going out.
Yeah. So that's definitely, I would say, the first thing. And then going off of what you said about how to kind of what, if you get nervous, what to look for, also go to the website, the educator or instructor's website. They're going to have everything you need if it's a good website. Like, for example, if you go to iishooting.com and look at our enhanced concealed carry class or any of our classes, it talks about, there's a part about the description and maybe any kind of prerequisites you might need. Mm-hmm. And there's also the what to bring section, which I think is important because, like we talked about before, students or new shooters not having the right things and maybe becoming a little bit discouraged is a real thing that can happen. So, looking and seeing on the website would be a great thing to check out too.
And it's inevitable. Everybody's going to forget something at some point.
Sure.
When they come to a class. So don't let that be a deal breaker either. And I think we actually talked about this a couple episodes ago, is if you do forget something, that's not the end of the world. We'll figure it out. But make that list before, like you say, you can jump on here. In fact, I'm looking at the one for Saturday's class. It's just a good checklist to have. Anyway, you probably should even have that anyways on your range bag taped somewhere, so you can go through and be like, yep, that's in there. I'm good. Yeah.
And the other thing I was going to say is that if you don't have a range bag at this point, it might be a good idea to actually have one, because I imagine once you take one class, you're going to want to take more, or just make sure, you can leave everything in that bag to make sure then you've got, you don't even have to think about it. Next time you go to the range, you can just take that bag and it's got everything you need. So.
Yeah. I've got my bag, my big gray bag that I haul around everywhere, and it's way too heavy. I've got too much stuff in it. So we've talked about range bags before. Just don't get one that's too big.
Yeah, just make sure it can handle a firearm and some other essentials, and that's probably really all you need. Ear and eye pro, and maybe some first aid stuff if you've got that. If you've got the qualifications for that, but that's really about it. You don't need to go overboard. So,
yeah, indeed.
Let's see. So, we kind of went over how to prepare. Anything else that maybe you wouldn't think of to bring that's that's good to have. I've got a couple of things I could think of, but we might have the same thoughts. So,
well, I'm fat and I like to eat and I like snacks, and I know that's even on our checklist on the store's website here. But if you can, go ahead and bring water and something to snack on, whether it's jerky or something to help you out, as long as it's not distracting to the class or any kind of disruption to the class.
Right.
Then it's okay to bring snacks, at least at Independence. I know something that I would not bring is probably like a video camera or anything like that. I know for my standpoint and the store standpoint, that would be inappropriate.
Has that ever happened to you in a class? Somebody brought a video camera?
No, I think I've had some people, and honestly, I've taken pictures of slides and stuff, but not that I'm aware of. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody turned on their voice recorder or something during class, but
sure.
I'm sure it's happened somewhere.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a little ridiculous, but that's why I said, like, bring notes or bring a notepad and a pen. That way, then you can kind of. For me, I take what's being taught and I kind of put it in my own words, so then I remember it a little bit better. And doing that with notes, whether that's a notes app on your phone or a pad and paper or whatever, I think it reinforces what you're learning, and because you're not only hearing it, but you're writing it down as well. And that
helps you remember things.
Kind of helps, retain information. But it helps me, like I said, to put it in my own words, so then I can go back and understand kind of the gist of it a little bit. And if it's, heaven forbid, if it's a boring class or you have an instructor that's not the most engaging, putting it in your own words is going to be able to help and keep you kind of engaged. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always say to bring a pad and paper, even if you don't write anything down.
At the very least, you're going to have some nice little doodles to look at later on.
Yeah. But yeah, I think one thing that a lot of people forget maybe is water or a snack or whatever, especially if it's an 8-hour class. Usually, they let you take off for an hour for lunch or something if need be.
Yeah, there's a break in there somewhere usually.
Yeah, but if it's especially if you are one of those people that gets a little tired or loses focus if you're hungry, having some jerky or a snack or something like that is definitely a good thing to have. I know that because I'm one of those people.
I was gonna say I fall into that category probably most of the time.
Yeah, I am definitely one of those people. So good idea to have that kind of stuff.
And I know I know from my side of the class that I've taught on this on several occasions is the shooting side is, please, if you're bringing a semi-automatic, please bring more magazines. It says 2 magazines, but in our class, or the description here, but I would say if you have 4 or 5 magazines, just bring them.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you can not only can you cut down on reloading time because you're going to be reloading a lot. I mean, think about, you said 120, 150 rounds at minimum. It could be twice that if you've got a smaller class. And let's say you've only got 2 magazines that hold 17 rounds each, you're going to be reloading maybe 10, 15 times. And it's going to wear on your hands a little bit. So I think the more mags that you can have, the less reloading you're going to have to do. And honestly, it's going to help speed the class along too. Yeah,
it does make it go a little quicker. But for some reason, it just takes a little coercing sometimes for some people. They just don't think about it.
Yeah. Obviously, too, you want to bring eye and ear protection. And if you have a holster too, holster setup or whatever already, I think that's wise to bring. You may not use it or whatever, but I think more and more classes are starting to, especially once you get past that enhanced concealed carry class, you're going to be, using a holster and things of that sort. So definitely something you want to, check into and make sure you bring, if you have one. If not, any good gun shop will have one, that you can purchase later, but something you want to think about as well.
Hopefully they have one.
Yeah. But food, water, snacks, trying to think of what else, extra mags, a range bag with everything you need in it. What else? Anything else I'm missing, you think?
Well, I guess there is, like, if you're, and it's really not noted in here, if you're a lady shooter that's going to come take the class, I think we have talked about this before also, but wearing appropriate clothing, and I'm not talking about, showing up in a cocktail dress or anything, but I think it's important to know that you don't want to wear a low cut shirt, or maybe even a hoodie can be a problem sometime if you catch brass in the hoodie, but definitely something that comes up high around the neck. Now, I have caught brass down my shirt, and it is very uncomfortable and it hurts a lot.
It doesn't feel good. Well, and I would even say as a guy, if you're wearing, a tank top or a loose fitting shirt of some kind or whatever, you could run into the exact same problem.
I was teaching a one-on-one one time, and I was wearing a polo shirt, and a piece of brass fell down my shirt. I was standing just right. It bounced off the side of the stall, and man, that hurt so bad. And I kept going. Like, I didn't want to freak her out or nothing, because she was a new shooter, and I knew, like, if I freaked out, then she would freak out. So I just had to keep going.
Right. Yeah.
But it hurt. It
doesn't
was not
feel good. Hot brass feels bad no matter what.
Yeah, so you're right. If it's a lady or a guy shooter, just wear something that's got a good collar that comes close to the skin, so you're not taking stuff down the shirt.
Yeah, and, for sure.
Maybe even a good hat is a great option as well. Like, if with your glasses, I've actually caught brass between my glasses and my face. That hurts a lot.
Yeah,
and that can be really dangerous. Like, obviously it could be a major problem to your eyesight. So it's not a bad idea to wear a hat as well, a brimmed hat.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially as somebody who does wear glasses most of the time, or, because whether you're wearing glasses or full on eye protection, it's going to be, either way, if it goes in between, it's not going to be a good time. So yeah, definitely a good point there. Make sure you have that kind of stuff. And then I would say too, just kind of in terms of like your average preparation, make sure you have a good night's sleep the night before. Make sure that you've got everything kind of prepared the night before as well. I would say that's, a big plus. So you don't have to stress about it, especially with an 8-hour class. It's going to start, later in the day, or it's going to be an all-day affair, or maybe even a 2-day affair. So,
yeah, and while you're even thinking about that, made me think about caffeine consumption.
Sure,
that can be good and bad. Like, it's nice to be able to wake up and have your coffee or Rockstar or whatever you're drinking with caffeine in it. But when you're shaky and maybe even fatigued, that could really amplify some of the side effects to caffeine, and then you might not have as pleasant of an experience, or you might get a super bad headache because of too much caffeine, or maybe even not enough caffeine. I don't know. I don't know how much people drink in a day, but
yeah. Or maybe you just have to pee a bunch, and then you're not going to enjoy it. You're going to be thinking about how badly you have to pee rather than listening to the instructor and being present in that class. So
yeah, because we're not going to wait for you.
Yeah.
We'll tell you where the restroom is, and then we're going to keep going.
Yeah, you're going to miss out on some stuff which you don't want to do. So what about and the other thing too is I'd say, the day of, make sure you're up, showered and ready to go, and then get there, at least 15 minutes early. Maybe that's just me, but I always try to get places earlier rather than later.
I hate being late. And as an instructor, it does really frustrate me when students are late.
Right.
So for example, the class that we're going to be taking starts at 12. If you can't be there at 11:45 in the morning, maybe, I don't know, unless there's traffic or something. I'm sure there's legitimate excuses if things happen, but you should be able to get there on time a little early.
Easily. And then, once you get there, you can always go to the front desk or the range counter and say, hey, I'm here for, XYZ class. And they'll usually be able to point you in the right direction because, sometimes the classes are tucked away in the rear of the building, or in the case of Independence, we have multiple classrooms and there could be multiple classes going on and you're not sure which classroom is going to be. So you want to make sure you're going to the right place and that you're in the right classroom.
Yep.
So I would say that's definitely something to think about too. And another reason for getting there early.
Yeah, and that's just going to say, arriving early too, you can, if maybe you don't have certain things on that checklist that you need, maybe you forgot your eyes, that gives you some time to either buy a new set of eyes or figure out whatever, or eye protection, not eyes, but or ear protection or whatever. It gives you a little extra time so you're not frantic when it comes to the range portion of the class.
Right, and that also gives you time to buy ammo if you need it. But I would say, if you're going to take a class, I would make sure that you have the ammo beforehand, or call ahead to make sure that, like Steve said, that they are setting aside ammo for people. But even then, you might still want some extra just in case. So I would definitely try to pick up ammo, a week or a couple days beforehand, because,
if you can.
Most of these classes fill up. So you're going to be signing up for a class a month or maybe even 2 in advance,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another good thing to bring up. I think we've talked about this before too, is if you are planning on taking a class, maybe sign up for a class that's, a month or 2 down the road, so you can acquire the ammunition or whatever, and it gives you a little extra time. Yeah,
for sure. Because especially now, I think that's a consideration for 2020 that, we haven't had to worry about before. Ammo's always been plentiful, and, we've been able to get it for the cheap, and you can get it the day of and XYZ, but, it's a different story now. And unfortunately, we don't have that luxury. So you kind of have to be extra prepared with those classes and with ammunition. So,
yeah. And I think it's going to be a little bit more stressful in 21 than it has been ever, as far as finding that stuff. Like, I think my prediction of ammo getting a little easier by the middle of the year is wrong. I think it's going to be much, much longer than that. So, yeah, just be prepared for that.
Yeah, it could be. But again, it's training, is going to be important. And, it's going to be worth the cost of ammo, even if that cost is a little bit more. You just finding it is going to be the tough part. But like I said, like Steve said, you can always call ahead to the range and ask. And a good range, I think, will have some of that ammo set aside for you to use. For the class, because they know just as well as anybody else, if you don't have the ammo, then the class is kind of a moot point,
Absolutely.
So definitely something to think about there. But yeah, anything else what about your predictions for the enhanced class? What are you kind of predicting that you're gonna, experience?
So, no matter who the instructor is, I know that I'm going to get sound information. I know whether if it's Leroy or whoever it is that's teaching the class, I know that I'm going to get somebody that's an experienced teacher, and that has, or B, apparently I don't have experience with the alphabet. An experienced shooter, B, or somebody that's has real world experience,
right?
That has had to use a gun in defensive situations, that understands the psychology, I guess, behind it would be a good way to put it.
Sure.
So I know I'm going to get solid information. Other than that, I just expect to learn something. I always try to learn something new, even if I feel like I know the content. So, yeah, it goes back to I have nothing negative.
Nothing negative. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that probably about wraps it up. I can't really think of much more. If maybe we missed something. Oh, you have more? I
was going to talk about, and maybe you don't want to talk about the other thing. I was, so the other day, so Adam, it really started with Adam again. Man, that kid gets me in a lot of trouble. He asked me if I'd heard of this individual. I'd never heard of him before.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot about this.
Yeah. So that went through probably almost a month of, hey, check out this video, look at this. So, and maybe you guys have heard of him. His name's Travis Kennedy. He's a former Navy SEAL. He actually was on the training side. Once he graduated or retired from SEAL teams, he went and taught SEAL teams on on a lot of different stuff. And the kid looks like he's young. Like,
what's why you keep calling him a kid?
He looks like he's 20 years old. So I really thought he was full of crap when he said he was a Navy SEAL.
Really?
But I'm sure by now in the SEAL community, if he wasn't legit, he would be hiding somewhere by now. The SEALs don't take kindly for stolen valor.
Right.
So anyway, Travis Kennedy, he's got a website called KDS Defense. He does a lot of online training. Like almost everything he does is just online, which I think is an interesting platform.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious to see how it all works. So I decided to jump on there. He has a 30-day defensive standards challenge is what he calls it. Really? And so every day there's a different challenge to do. And I'm not sure if you're supposed to record what you're going to do. I'm going to record it and post. So there's like a private page and stuff where you can post all sorts of stuff on there. So
sure.
I decided I'll do it. Now I've watched some of the videos that he's doing and it starts off extremely basic stuff that I'm very comfortable doing. I haven't seen the later videos for the end of the month, but there was a bunch that I watched already.
Yeah.
So like I say, some of it I already know, but I'm hoping some of it is something new when I get farther into it.
Oh, I'm sure.
I thought it was just another dynamic, just like taking an enhanced class that I already know the content. Why not learn something, even though it might not be new information, but maybe new techniques or stuff I just didn't know. I mean, there's stuff there that shooters are doing now that, it makes sense.
Well, even just mindset stuff, that would be, it's a good thing to think about. So.
Yeah. So if it's something you guys are interested in, like I could throw the link on the Facebook page or whatever, but really you can just jump on KDS Defense and browse around. He does like a monthly membership where, I think it's like $20 a month. You can do all sorts of different things. He has a pretty intense fitness program that I'm probably not going to do because it's pretty intense.
I'm looking at the page now. It's video lessons and an ebook and fitness ebook as well, along with a community. It seems like probably about the best way that you could do firearms training online, and it seems like it's a pretty cool place. So I'm interested to see how this is going to go for you.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued too. Like I say, this concept of online teaching has been something that's been very interesting to me. I don't know how else to say that, but I've been very, very interested in the platform and how folks that are doing online stuff are really reaching out and engaging. So I wanted to get involved in this and really see what he does differently.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of obviously with the way the world's gone lately, there's been a lot of people doing things online, and I would say that there are just some things not that you can't teach online, but that are more difficult to teach online, and firearms training is definitely one of them. But being able to see, how this works, I would say is going to be an exciting thing, especially with you taking the enhanced concealed carry class, and then also taking this kind of in conjunction and being able to compare and contrast. And, maybe we can do a review episode sooner or later and see how everything went. So, yeah, I'm excited to report back on it. Yeah, exactly. So and maybe, Nick and I'll be able to take it too afterwards and see what we all get from it. I think that'd be kind of cool. So, yeah. And if you guys are interested in taking classes, I know we talk about this all the time, but give independence indoor shooting a look. There's a bunch of different levels that we can teach on, even if it's just some one-on-one time or just range time alone. Independence has the ability to meet all sorts of levels of needs there. So it's a very unique store. We're pretty lucky to have it. We are very lucky. And that's what I was going to say too, is that I'm glad you touched on that, is that if you are maybe you've taken all the classes that you can, or you've run through an intermediate and an advanced class, if so, lucky you, but you're looking maybe to do something more specific or to take some sort of, you have a certain case or you want to just work on something specific in your firearms journey. That's what the one-on-one is definitely for. And those are still going on. You can still take advantage of those opportunities. Yeah. So, well, I'm excited to see what you think of the enhanced class and how you enjoy it, and what you learn from it. Maybe I have to imagine there's something you're going to be surprised about, but we'll see. I think so. We'll report back next week or the week after and go from there. So, do you have anything else you want to add other than the Kennedy Defensive Solutions? No, I don't think so. Maybe just a quick plug. Might be a good time to join like Idaho Second Amendment Alliance or one of those guns right groups, because it's going to be a bumpy couple of years. But I think it's important that we stay positive and level-headed as we make that journey together. Sure. Yeah. We've talked about that before, talking about Gun Owners of America, Firearms Policy Coalition, Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, your local place, depending on where you're at. Definitely worth checking out and going and supporting them if you can. Who knows what the future is going to bring. So, we'll, I think joining those organizations, though, are definitely a good way to help support the gun rights that we have, and keep them where they need to be, I guess is the best way to put it. Yeah. So cool. Well, that'll be it for this one. If we missed anything, or if you have anything you'd like to add, let us know. podcast@iishooting.com, or find us on Facebook and Instagram at Range Minded Podcast. And we're now on Parler. And Parler as well. We just started that. Yeah. I believe that's Range Minded Podcast as well. Yep. So wherever you can find us, we'll be there. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, guys. Be safe. Take care. Bye-bye. See ya. Thanks for listening to Range Minded. Find us online at Range Minded Podcast on Facebook, or send us an email at podcast@iishooting.com. We're always happy to get feedback, episode suggestions, whatever you want to send us, really. And be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and pretty much wherever else you get your podcasts from. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.